All right, Miriam, thanks for joining us and thanks for coming to Korea. I think we can talk about the higher education in the United States and Korea, and maybe the cooperations and about the future today. There is a mega trend of internationalization in all higher education institutions all over the world. What would be the major forces to lead that kind of new trend in the United States or in all over the world? What's your opinion?
Well, I think that's, first of all, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure to be here at this very interesting forum. As we've heard for the past 2 days, actually, you see the reasons for internationalization. Yesterday, the two speakers, particularly Kenichi Omae and also the American speaker, I have to get his name, he's very famous. Francis Fukuyama. Thank you very much for reminding me. Both spoke about the new world in which we live, and clearly people are, borders are no longer that significant. Capital moves, talent moves. So if you want to prepare your students for the future, you have to give them, to prepare them to work in a very open and global environment. That means two things. Maybe your student will be prepared to work anywhere in the world, but at the same time, we are seeing increasingly our students have to compete for jobs with people from other countries. So whether you stay in your country or whether you travel, you're still competing for jobs almost on a global basis. So that's what's happening. Borders are increasingly becoming less important when it comes to jobs and talent. So that's essentially, in my view, what is driving this trend in internationalization as I see it. But internationalization takes on very different meanings also depending on where you go. In Europe it has a certain meaning, maybe in Asia it has a different meaning, in the US it has a slight meaning because it's very contextual. It depends on your higher education tradition and what you mean by internationalization.
Well, it's same phenomenon. There is the same phenomenon in Korea about the internationalization of higher education. The universities in Korea used to be very domestic oriented. The competition is usually only among universities in Korea. So we compete each other severely. However, we never had experiences competing with universities in the world because Korean society has been more egocentric and emphasize the unity of whole nation, and so that we raised really good national leaders in the society. So that's why Korean society has been developed so fast for the given short period of time. But we do not have many international leaders or global citizens. So Korean University started that initiation with so-called Global KU project, and then most other universities realized that this is the direction we have to go. At the same time, the global competition was in our nation already because high school students now go to United States, England, or Australia directly. So the mobility of high school students are changing. That means already there is international competition within the nation. So in order to survive and at the same time in order to be successful in the future of higher education industry, the universities must open their gates and must open their mind, and they have they have to adopt new paradigm of internationalization. That's what I'm thinking.
I'm sure that's what you're absolutely very right, because I do not believe that like in finance or manufacturing, just like international competition has really made those industries efficient, I'm sure it was sooner or later going to come to higher education, you know, and it affected because students become very knowledgeable. They choose. Before they used to choose maybe among universities in their country. Now they choose more internationally.
Yes.
Particularly the very talented one. They have so many options. What you're telling me is what it's now happening at the undergraduate level. Before it was graduate students, you know, who used to go outside to study.
Right.
Now maybe even the freshman goes out,
Right.
has opportunities. Yes, it is happening all over the world. You know, we all feel the impact of internationalization. One manifestation, for example, is this world ranking. Who would have thought many years ago that you would go around ranking universities across, you know, in the world? But now it's a phenomenon, as if the world was the same platform. So it's happening. It's very rapid, and sometimes it happens, and we are the last ones to know.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and it's not. I don't think much of it is also planned. It happens, and then you have to catch up with it.
Right. About the world rankings, that whoever ranks the rankings, they look at higher education institutions as one unit.
Yes.
So in that sense, universities in Asia has disadvantage because we are using different languages, and also we are under different culture. And so I think the universities in Asia Pacific has less recognition also. So however, most presidents in the world are conscious about the rankings, although they are criticized. So that's a very interesting phenomenon, isn't it?
Sure is.
Yeah.
It is. The two international rankings that have come in the past few years is Shanghai Jiaotong University, which is probably benchmarking by the Chinese to see where in the future how many Chinese universities will rise up to the top, and also the Times Higher Education Supplement, the British. Those are the two that exist.
Right.
It is interesting also to see why all of a sudden are we doing this internationally. The US, I do not believe that there is a world ranking started in the US, no. But US universities do very well in these rankings. But generally, one comes from England and one comes from Shanghai Jiaotong University. And they're very controversial. I mean, a lot of people don't agree with them. But at the same time, the press catches it,
Exactly.
and then it takes a life of its own. But it's quite controversial. That said, MBA programs, business schools are ranked, as you know. The Economist ranks, Business Week, and all the, even I think the Wall Street Journal also. I mean, there are several rankings. So I don't know, for people in business who are experts in business will tell you that there is something there. It's the marketing aspect to it also, you know. It gives you a good, if you get a good ranking, it gives you a very good position in the market, doesn't it?
Yes, yes. So the ranking system is developed because of the major trend of internationalization of higher education in institutions all over the world, and also the ranking system also facilitate more internationalization in that sense. Because of a new trend, I mean, or new stream of internationalization, I think higher education institutions are more or less borderless. So students can go to any country, anytime, and also at the same time, the universities can come to different countries, like having new branches and so on. What do you see about that?
It's a continuation of the song phenomenon to the extent that if the student, before it used to be the student who traveled, now it's the programs that are traveling.
Yeah, that's really interesting, isn't it?
Yes,
yeah.
it is. It really is.
Yeah.
It's amazing because for a variety of reasons. For instance, Singapore has decided to become a center for higher education excellence, so they have invited all these international universities to come and open there. Qatar, as you know, Dubai in the Middle East,
yes.
they are inviting foreign institutions to come and open to attract students regionally and to teach them over there. I'm sure there are many reasons for doing it. One of them might be that students would rather stay in their home environment and get, the education that they want. For example, in the Middle East, it is literally building capacity from the ground up. If a foreign institution comes and opens a campus, they bring the faculty, they bring everything. All you need is the physical plan. So it's one of these globalization phenomenon. First it used to be the student, now it is the programs that are coming in. Carnegie Mellon University, if you know this one in the US, they have opened a branch in Australia. So go figure. So it's happening. Plus, we didn't talk about online education, what the gentleman in the session called cyber education. You can sit in your house and take a course offered by a university in a totally different country, right? So all kinds of educational offerings are being made available now.
I think we are entering new paradigm of higher education, I think. So we are creating new ones.
I'm sure. It's changing very rapidly, for sure.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
What should the Korean government do to draw
students from other countries?
Universities here in Korea.
To bring foreign universities?
Yes, foreign university, and to become a talent hub in Asia Pacific.
Well, it's a very interesting question. First of all, I don't know that you need to bring foreign universities to become a talent hub. I believe that you have world-class universities right here. So, you have tremendous capacity here. So I don't know why they would bring foreign institutions, to be honest with you. Unless there is local demand, by the local people saying, I would like foreign universities to come here. But Korea having some first-rate universities, I wouldn't see why. I would think any university who would come here would face very stiff competition from Korean universities themselves. They're not going to let them come in easily, because I saw the campus of Korea University. It's amazing. So with institutions like that here, why would anybody go to some other transplant? That would be my thinking, because I'm thinking a little bit also like an American. If a foreign university were to come to America, the American universities would compete very strongly, and the student will say, well, why should I go here when I have all this being offered locally? So you have to have two. One is because the reason that these foreign campuses come is when there is an issue with the local system. Maybe there are not enough universities, or maybe they are not of international standing, which isn't the issue here as far as I can tell. You have many universities and they are institutions of international standing. So ask Professor Lee what would happen if somebody wanted to come here.
Oh, well, I think I'd like to welcome foreign universities in Korea, because the foreign universities will stimulate Korean universities to be more competitive. But on the other hand, we're going to face a little bit problem to compete with each other. However, also, as you mentioned, Miriam, that there are many good universities in Korea already.
Absolutely.
They are under-evaluated, actually. Also, in that sense, if the government can support for universities in Korea to become more internationalized, that could be much easier to have education system. Maybe they can get rid of some constraints, legal constraints, and also maybe they can support more budget to the universities, because compared to OECD country universities, Korean universities are less funded by government. But particularly in Korea, 80% of universities are private universities, and mostly they are only about 3 or 4% funded by government. Compared to United States and in Japan, they are like almost 10 or 12%, even 15% sponsored by government. So with this small amount of budget, competing with world-class university is very difficult. So the government must support the university who like to be internationalized. So I think that could be done by the government. And also this HR forum is good start to discuss that matter.
Well, all I can say is based upon what I've heard and a little bit my experience is that you have a really very, very strong higher education system in Korea, second to none in the world as far as I can tell. And yesterday and today, I think during the session, it's very evident that the Korean economy is built on human resources, having very educated workforce. And so that's obvious. I mean, look how far the country has come. And yesterday, I was listening to the OECD presentation, and Korea's educational attainments are very, very high. They are number 2 in the world in maths and science, I guess. Finland, she put on top, and then second was Korea. Where was the US? So it was very, very impressive. So the education enterprise in Korea is very strong. That is what was obvious to me, at least that has been made obvious. And you can also see what has been achieved. I mean, all you have to do is look around.
And Korean students like to go study abroad, particularly in the United States. The first destination they like to go. From high schoolers to university graduates. You are doing your job to evaluate their transcript. What do you do, and how are they regarded in general in the United States?
First of all, very well. Korean students tend to be academically very strong when they come across the other side. One of the reasons is because they are used to studying and to working very hard, so they are accustomed. And they have very good work habits and work ethics in terms of as students. Secondly, the compatibility between American higher education and Korean is perfect. 12 plus 4, 12 plus 4.
Oh, yeah.
You have a system that really is very easy to assess and understand. So American colleges and universities have no trouble when they receive an application from a student from Korea. So the Korean students are very welcomed in the United States, and institutions assess them and admit them in large numbers. As a matter of fact, as I showed you, Korean students represent 10% of the international students in the US. Number 1 is India, number 2 is China. Those countries have a population of 1 billion plus. Think about it, and what is the population of Korea? 45 million?
Yeah, about that.
When you think about that and look at the proportion, there is a very, very high presence of Korean students in the US. And because there is tremendous educational exchange and compatibility between Korea and the US, and you will find Korean students virtually across the United States, especially at the graduate level. There are lots of Korean graduate students. Look at this event. If you look at many of the Korean speakers, they have American PhDs. So there is a very long tradition Korean students studying in the US. So it's a very well-known quantity and a very well-respected system, and the students are welcomed.
Well, on the other hand, we don't see many United States students in Korea, in Asia. Maybe U.S. is self-supportive, or maybe they do not have to go out. What would you think that how can a university in Korea attract U.S. students to come abroad to Korea?
By and large, relative to the size of our student population, American students don't go out very much. We have about 120 or 130,000 students studying abroad. I'm not sure. The number has been increasing. However, it's not as much as it could be. And there are very many reasons for it. The big one is linguistic. Americans only speak English by and large. Secondly, the type of student who goes to study outside of the US, they go to England, Australia for linguistic reason, and then they go to France or Spain or whatever to study culture, history, art history, and so on. So it also has to do with what students want to study when they go out. And we are doing our best to encourage more students to go out and to go beyond Europe, to go to other places.
Right.
It's it's not easy to do it. And one of the things, it's obvious, the linguistic issue has to be addressed. I have come to the conclusion that in order to send large numbers of students, we'll only go if they can learn in English, you know. So that's a big issue for American students.
Right.
And the only way to stimulate this is to have arrangements with specific universities, you know, exchanges and such. But Americans tend to stay home to study.
In that sense, the English as teaching medium is getting popular.
Oh yes.
In Korea, Korean university now, in all the classes, out of all the classes, 32% of them are taught in English. And I heard that also Sorbonne in Paris, they're changing their teaching medium also. So a very interesting phenomenon here. But there are still criticism in our society, or maybe in other societies. Particularly yesterday we had one session, and after one session there was one question raised by a professor of Korea university, I think one of Korean universities. He also said that if using English as teaching medium can attract foreign students, but then they will go back to their country, and then we are losing our talents and so on. I don't agree with that, because if for foreign students, how can they learn Korean before coming over here? Why do they have to learn Korean? Well, I'm not saying Korean is no good language. I really respect Korean culture and Korean language. But in order to let them know about Korean culture and language, they must come over first. And so I think language barrier must be get rid of. So the teaching classes in English, I think, is the key to get over and get rid of the hurdle, I think.
I think there are examples, I agree with you, and there are examples of that. If you go to the Netherlands or to Sweden and Finland and all these countries.
They use all different languages, however, right?
They teach English.
Yeah.
They're teaching in English because nobody is going to learn Norwegian or Dutch or Finnish, because that is a language only used in one country. So people will learn English. Why? Because it's an international language, you know? That's why people are very practical.
Right.
They're very pragmatic. So teaching in English is becoming a necessity. If you go to Europe now, because of the reforms that they are doing in higher education and students are moving around, they have come to the agreement that unless they teach in English, they will limit the intake to only those students who speak that language, you know. So, for example, I don't know, if you are a university, say in Norway, if you want to attract foreign students, you have to teach in English. Even the French increasingly are teaching in English, because otherwise only the students who speak French will go there. And then you limit the number of people who could come possibly to study science or engineering or whatever. So I do believe that teaching in English is becoming some kind of a norm, because English has become really the lingua franca of science and technology, right? Everybody who is in science and technology, a lot of papers are written in English, a lot of research is in English, communication is in English, you know. So you still have to teach in the home language, but teaching English is also interesting for the local students also who want to take courses in English. For them also it's a practice, you know, because they study together with the foreign students.
So in order to have more friends of Korea, for example, I think initially we must give lectures in English, and then attract them to come over, and then they will look at the culture and they will enjoy the culture, and then they will become the friends, and then they'll like to learn Korean after all. I think that would be the positive process to do it. Among the nations in Asia, we use many different languages and many different culture than Europe. And also we have the historical, backgrounds, and we have some emotions also. So for example, Korea, Japan, and China, three nations are the leading countries in Asia. However, they have not desirable histories, and now all nation people are having some emotions, and then yet they never went to different country, they never visited, and they never understand the other culture. So then I think the too much nationalistic emotions will create more problem later on. So I think the universities in three different nations can do a key role for the people who are in the three different nations to make friends and to understand each other. So, for example, Korea University and Fudan University in Shanghai and National University of Singapore, they signed on an agreement to acting as if they are one unit. So we can send our students, to different countries. They can send us also. And also Waseda, Keio, and Yonsei, Korea University, four universities recently agreed upon that we will exchange our students multilaterally, and also maybe we can give a joint degree. So that kind of new project is going on. So with this kind of new higher education system of collaboration, I think after 10 or 20 years later, the people who are in one country can understand the other countries, so that maybe at the end more peace and more friendship among three different nations will be developed.
Oh, I'm sure of it. I mean, look, I look at the European example. I mean, everybody was fighting everybody else in World War II,
Right.
Think about the British and the French and the German and all those. They were fighting. Look at them now. They have a same, European Union, and the students are studying in one country, moving to the other, So I do believe that eventually with peace and prosperity. I mean, these things come together, it seems to me. The US, obviously, we have less of an example, but I look at the Europeans. It's hard to imagine that many 50 years ago, these countries was at each other's throats, fighting and so on. Look at them now. They are very friendly. In fact, you don't need even a visa to go from one to the next. It's almost no border. It's a free border, right?
Right.
It's
just one unit.
Yeah, exactly. So presumably the same could possibly happen here. And as new generations come in, they don't remember. They don't remember. It's the old ones who remember, who carry a grudge. But the young people sometimes don't know what the history.
Right.
And so change is definitely taking place all over. I mean, think about it. Nixon went to China in 1972. Remember it was a big deal because China was closed. Look at China now, my God. So things are changing all the time.
I visit China often to visit universities. I met many presidents over there and met many vice presidents and administrators. The way they are running the university is very much capitalistic and also very much competitive. Very freely competitive. For example, the government decided to fund about 10 best universities, and they pour huge amount of money on those universities to make them to become world class. And also within the university, the salary system is very competitive. I was surprised to look at it, just like American system. So each person has different salary. It's not common in Korea and maybe in Japan too. Based on seniority, we give salaries. So in that sense, I think the government policy and also administrative policy within the university in Korea is more socialistic actually.
Really?
Yeah, and Chinese friends joking me that we are more socialistic. They are more capitalistic in running university. So that's very, very interesting to look at.
Sure is. I didn't know that, that it was like that. But also, I look at the time frame. I mean, US, Korea, you could come up on your own pace. China is raising like this because they have to do it very quickly. So I presume they are doing that to attract star faculty or something.
Yes.
And they have decided to create these world-class universities in perhaps a shorter time frame than anybody else. So that's why probably they are pouring a ton of money in there. I mean, it is amazing what's going on. I mean, it really is. And I do believe that they are competing with Korea, with Japan, and the US. I mean, it's not only, I'm sure they are. They look around and they see, wow, how do we catch up? So I think that's the way of, it's competition. I mean, it's sheer competition. It's amazing.
Right. As you said, there is a competition for talent.
Oh, yes.
And if Korean universities do not do a good job in internationalization, I think they will lose all talents to foreign countries. Already to the United States, to Europe and Australia. And now we have another competitor from China. So sooner or later, the whole universities in Korea will lose the competitiveness if we do not adapt this new huge wave. And I think we must ride the wave. Otherwise, we're gonna see really pessimistic future.
Well, I do believe that first of all is to be aware of it, not to wait for things to come. So to try to get ahead of the game. It is true. All of us cannot avoid competition now. Everybody is competing. Ranking, students, faculty, stars, whatever.
Right.
So it's very, very competitive out there and in higher education. 20 years ago, did universities compete? Not so much.
Right.
It was unheard of. But now, we are in a very, very fast evolving environment. And everybody knows that the quality of your higher education system is commensurate with the strength of your economy. That is exactly what's happening, you know. Strong higher education, strong economy, innovation, high-tech industry, good jobs, etc., etc. So they're all, interrelated in many ways.
Right.
And I think that's what I heard at this conference anyway. Many presenters were saying that. Why do we do it? Because we want our economies and our countries to become rich and prosperous. And higher education is absolutely critical. Research, R&D, that all that. So it's very competitive also. Nowadays, companies, what do? They look around and they see where are the best researchers, where is the best talent? And they put the jobs right where the talent is, right? So you have to make yourself attractive.
Well, within this stream of wave or new phenomenon, what are roles of NAFSA in your country?
Well, NAFSA is, to me, we offer a few key services. First of all, NAFSA is a network that brings together all the professionals. Secondly, NAFSA creates best practice, how, admit, recruit international students, how to serve international students, how to prepare your students to study outside, how to stimulate exchange. That's our job. So we have to prepare the knowledge, do the research, and train the people who do this work. The third work that NAFSA does, which is extremely critical, is to try and influence policy, both institutional policy and government policy, to encourage educational exchange, mobility. So that's NAFSA's big role. It's a network. It develops, it helps develop knowledge and provide training. It also tries to influence policy, to stimulate exchange, to promote exchange. It's very, very important. But it's also American tradition, Professional associations are very important in in the American way of doing things, as you know. Because government, for example, the role of government in education
is pretty low, right?
It's pretty low. Yes. So it is the profession itself that develops its own knowledge, that evolves its own paradigm. So in that sense, NAFSA plays a very critical role. People rely on it, and universities also rely on NAFSA to train their people, to train their staff.
Oh, I see.
That's all the training is done by NAFSA. So that is very, very critical. You also saw the conference, which is a huge exposition, which brings all the people interested in international education from all over the world. They get together.
Is there any institution in Korea equivalent to NAFSA?
Yes, I believe you have. Professor Lee can tell you.
Well, yes. There's NAFSA in the United States, in Northern American region, and EAIE in Europe, but there's nothing like that in Asia. So, and also Asian countries have different cultures, languages, and they didn't respect much each other, so they just look upon the other Western countries, so they did not want to know each other actually, and they did not, if they wanted, they did not have good venue to meet. So I founded an association called APAIE, Asia Pacific Association for International Education. So we had the first conference in last March in Seoul, and turned out to be a huge success. We're going to have a second conference at Singapore next year. So now in region-wide, NAFSA, EAIE, and APAIE could be legs to support to vitalize the internationalization among universities within the region and between the regions.
As what happens is that as exchange is stimulated, there is a need that emerges. All the people working in exchange want to be able to get together to discuss mutual concern, share ideas, develop best practices. So the need for an association starts to emerge, right? NAFSA was there before because we had students beginning after World War II, so NAFSA came about in 1948, right? Fast forward, Europeans had the big exchange program Erasmus begin in 87, APAIE begin in 89.
Yeah.
So you see, so as globalization and internationalization hits the Asia-Pacific region, an association clearly has to emerge. So it's in a sense it's demand-driven. It's need-driven.
There was a met need about that. I was lucky enough to launch that kind of historical association with great success. And that APAIE will do the very important role for Asian universities as well as universities all over the world.
That's also another thing, because I look, at least we from the United States look at the creation of APAIE with a lot of interest. Why? Because it opens another door on higher education in the Asia-Pacific region. It gives us another place to meet people. You get to know people, you get to establish links, sometimes bilateral, sometimes multilateral. Every year they're going to have a conference. We are going to come to their conference. We're going to learn more about the Asia-Pacific region. So it creates a place for us to go, to connect in Asia-Pacific. Yes, we had our former connections. Those will be continuing. But now there is a place where you can, if you are, particularly, let's say you don't have too many connections in Asia, what do?
Right.
You come there and you say, okay, I would like to know a little bit more about it. So it helps us a lot. So when organizations like APAIE are created, it's very, very good for us too. It opens a new door.
Well, the associations can do roles to provide information and to provide venue to meet each other. But the most important thing, important role of associations is to give opportunity to share the visions. Because nobody knows what kind of internationalization is the best or which way you have to go. Individual university is, do not know where to go, how to go. And if you get together and all together with a lot of discussions, and if we say that maybe this is the way, and then we can reduce the risks and we can go together hand in hand and very efficiently. That is a very good role of associations.
Absolutely.
I think. Yeah.
They make everything. It's a very good. It's a marketplace of ideas. Basically, that's what it is. A marketplace of ideas. So you look at different models, whatever. So it's very important to us at the opening up of APAIE is very good. It's very positive development, and one that we have looked at with a lot of interest and enthusiasm. And increasingly, I believe Americans will be looking to APAIE as a place for making connections with the Asia-Pacific area.
Well, let's change the topic a little bit. Small thing.
Yeah.
Maybe Korean people are interested in listening your opinion or your understanding of legacy program in the United States. Do you know something about that program? I mean, that policy of the United States to admit students?
As far as I know, legacy students are the children of alumni, right? Is that what you understand by legacy? The children of
right.
alumni? It exists at some elite private institutions. It is practiced. It's very specialized, and it's also a bit controversial. So to understand more about it, I think it's best to ask the people who work in this area. Personally, I don't work in that area, but I've read it in the paper in the past. About a year or two ago, there were a few articles in the New York Times about legacy issues, how different students are admitted to highly selective institutions, you know, the Harvards and the Yales and the Princetons and what have you. And they were asking, you know, how do you admit the students? So every university was giving their policy as to how the students are admitted. So there is a practice, but you have to find out precisely how it works. Because alumni are very important to American universities. Cultivating alumni is very important. All of us are alumni of a university. Every year we get a letter from the university asking us to make a contribution, some more so than others. So it's...
Do you think it's related to donations?
Alumni?
To be admitted or to...
The legacy issue?
The legacy issue.
I'm sure there is a connection, but I don't know exactly how it works. I don't think it's a big secret or anything like that. There is a system, but you have to find out the system, how it works. And they will, every university will, they will explain to you how it's done, how legacy issues are done. And it was in the paper, and they were interviewed, many of them, and they explained how they do it.
I think maybe we can summarize, or maybe we summarize by talking about to become a world-class higher education institution. What's your vision or opinion on that?
May I have
sure.
for that? What do you think about talent bipolarization?
What do you mean by that?
And so the talent people are getting more opportunities and getting more money,
Yes.
but the less talented people are getting less money and less opportunities. What do you think about that issue?
Because the current policy makers are very concerned about the different opportunities, the different rewards for highly educated person, less educated person, higher income, less income, and so on. I think that's why he's asking.
Well, it's an interesting question. At one level, education is, by definition, one where talent is rewarded. What does your teacher do in the classroom? Does everybody get the same grade?
No.
Exactly. Some get A's, some B, some C, some even F, you know, right? And they don't succeed. So to a certain extent, education rewards, call it talent or hard work or whatever. Education is a system of, there is that already built in. Some students can go to this university, some students are not admitted to that university on the basis of what? Of their examination results. So that exists. Likewise, you know, those who have talents that the market is interested in, it is prepared to pay them good money. So that is a given in life, as far as I know. The problem is not so much that talent is rewarded, is that everybody is given an equal chance to compete. You cannot define the outcome, but you can give everybody a fair chance. You know what I mean? So as long as the system is not unfair in the sense that it doesn't give everybody an equal chance to compete, well, if somebody who's worked harder or who is more talented or who has chosen a discipline that's much more in demand is going to be rewarded more than somebody who perhaps decided to do something else. So I look at it that way. So you have to guarantee opportunity to access to help students to have good education from the beginning, but not everyone is going to be, what you would call a star. So that in every system there is a star system. Star systems are terrible only if you get money because of who you are, because your father is the right guy or whatever. But if it's based on merit, if you're based on your effort, why not? I mean, think about it. That's the way it's always been, right? In education particularly, even in the same class, as I said, the teacher gives A, B, C, D.
In that sense, the legacy program is kind of contradict to the equal opportunity. What do you think?
Oh, I'm sure it is. I mean, it has aspects to it, but you see, this is why I am very careful about what I tell you, because the very highly selective institutions in the US, the ones that admit 1 out of every 20 or 30 applicants, they have a very careful way of selecting applicants. They have very different criteria. Some students are admitted on grades, some because they have leadership abilities, some are admitted for a variety of reasons. So I don't know what role this plays in it, but think about it, it can also play a role because US universities, private universities are very dependent on donation, and interestingly enough, the donors are not necessarily always the very people who start out very rich. It's people who, after completing their education, become very successful and then start donating. So they didn't all start out as rich people at the beginning. So that is why you have to find out how it works. At first glance, it looks kind of unfair, but you have to understand how it works, and that because I don't know how it works, I don't want to characterize it. But I also know another way of, for example, let's look at another aspect where everybody has to pass an exam. If you look at the distribution of students by parents' income category, sometimes you find out the richer the parents, the better school they go to, the more chances they have to pass exams, etc. So every system is not perfect. It's the degree of how you try to balance out. I'm not aware of a system that is totally perfect. So it's finding out and balancing. But this admission at these schools is a very, very complex job. They have experts who do this. So if you want to learn about it, you have to really talk to these people. In fact, you probably have to go to the States and talk to these people or interview them by the phone and ask them, how do you admit students? What are the criteria? They give points for everything. For example, if you are a very good athlete, you get points. If you are a very good speaker or you have
debater, right?
Debaters get points. You can say, what does that have to do with studying? With a good student is this one who has good grades. They should only look at grades. But it's not enough to just have good grades. They look at a whole bunch of criteria. How much percentage they give to this, I don't know. So it's a matter of waiting.
In Korea, I think the government role for less wealthy people or students who are talented is to give more scholarship to them. So maybe the government can raise their budget to support those talented yet they do not have enough finance, and then I think that will help the people first of all. Secondly, that will help the university indirectly. So I think that could be a very good idea to do it. Instead of giving money to university directly, maybe by doing that, the government can achieve two goals at one stone. Well, let's maybe summarize and wrap up by talking about our ideas or visions of world-class higher education institution.
Well, It's a new phenomenon, that has emerged with this world rankings and so on and so forth. Speaking from the United States, where if you look at world rankings, probably the lion's share, the majority of institutions that are at the top are American institutions like the Harvards and the MITs and the Yales and so on. If you call if those are the world-ranked world-class universities, they are unique phenomenon. They are very wealthy, they're very successful, they have a strong reputation. But because it's a very interesting concept that is new, not very well defined. You know, so I really don't know what it means. If you ask me, name a world-ranked university, world-class university, right? I will only rattle American institutions because that's what I know best. But are those the only world-class universities in the world? I don't know. It's a new phenomenon, and I don't think, is there any clear criteria for world-class?
I don't think so. Right.
That's the problem, you see.
We never talked about world-class systems before, right?
When did that begin?
Right, it's new phenomenon, right?
Yeah. Some of it is just marketing, advertising, and without knowing exactly what it means, it's very hard to say. But if I say Harvard is a world-class university or MIT, I cannot go wrong. I'm stating the obvious, right? Everybody knows about this. You have heard about Harvard University, right? Even in high school, right? You've heard about Harvard. I mean, are there others? Probably. You know, if I tell you UCLA, have you heard about UCLA? Oh, okay. So, you see what I mean? There are some names out there,
right.
but when you have to really define what you mean by world class. Do you agree with me?
Right.
I'm not so sure what it means.
To me, world-class university must have world-class research.
What's world-class research?
Well, leading researchers, leading research topics. Also, you must have a curricula to attract international students. And also, the students must have so in that sense, if I summarize it, maybe world-class research and curriculum and opportunities to have international experiences.
That's one definition.
Yeah.
The only time I've seen this word world-class really is in this Shanghai Jiaotang. Have you noticed Shanghai Jiaotang ranking? Do you know what this is? Now, they look at the number of Nobel Prize and field prize, which Nobel Prize only in the science, I think.
Right.
And also
mostly. Yeah.
Mostly in the sciences. And the field prize is a mathematics. It's a prize awarded in mathematics, from what I understand. So it very much weighs in favor of math and science. So, and obviously the Nobel is a world prize. I mean, everybody knows about it. It's an international. And the field prize, I understand, is also very international prize and so on. So that is one criterion that they use. A lot of people have written about it and saying, well, is this criteria giving too much importance to only one discipline? Research also, what about teaching, all kinds of questions. So it becomes very complicated. That's why I'm saying, what does it mean? It's going to take a little while for it to become clear for all of us. You understand what I mean? So I would like to think that in a few years we will have a more or less an understanding of what is world class. But right now, it's the only thing that I have seen is in this Shanghai Jiaotang University, and they rank universities a bit up to I don't know how many.
Well, I'd like to see at least 5 world-class universities in Korea in near future. But university cannot fulfill the goal by themselves, particularly in Korean society. So the society must support, and also government must support. Otherwise, the Korean society will be behind. As we talked all today or yesterday, that Korean society has been developed because of the people.
Oh yeah.
Highly educated people. You mentioned that just before.
Yeah.
In order to raise the highly talented, highly educated people, we must have a good education systems. Without having them, we do not have future. So we'll lose our talents to all other different countries. That's what you discussed today. I think as a Korean professor and administrator of university, I think we need to have that kind of support and system. In Korea, we spent a lot of budget and money on raising athletes, So we Koreans received many gold medalists and world records, and whole nation supported that because they are really good players and they represent nation. But did we support brain players? We never have done it. We thought that that's because that's his own business or her own individual business, not national business. I think we need to provide. I mean, the society must provide the opportunities and also the budget or all support to raise brain players, not only athletic players, but brain players. Otherwise, we do not have the future. If we support, I think we have still good future.
So you're proposing some kind of brain Olympics?
Well, not the Olympics, but actually we have a facility to train national team players in one place in Seoul.
You mean athletes?
Athletes, yes. So we provide all the sciences and the foods and programs and coaches and but we don't have to have a regional place like that or institution like that. But already we have universities. So what the government can do is they can support these universities so that they are the national players of brain Olympics, if you want to say, in the world. I think that would be a good way to have world-class university and to have a good future of Korea.
Well, as far as I have seen, you guys are doing very well, but I'm sure there is a lot more that can be done with help. Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing what's going on out there, right? Everybody's thinking about how to make the systems better and better all the time. That's true. Yeah, I can imagine. It's just that the borders have opened, and it's not enough to be the best in your country. You have to be among the best in the world. It's getting large. The field is becoming bigger and bigger, right? Is that what's happening? I think, right? We are playing in bigger fields.